It's been brilliant to see so many local community events taking place, as well as church services across the county as well. I want to say thank you very much to those staff members of the County Council who've worked so hard to make this work, and particularly Tracy, Jackie and Susan, and everyone else, like, for example, Nigel, who've done so much to make the events that have taken place truly memorable. So thank you all very much indeed for that. And thank you to all the parish and town councils and community groups across the county as well, who've done so much to make this a truly special weekend. So with that, we move on to apologies for absence. I have one, which is Councillor Jeff Watson, whose wife sadly isn't terribly well at the moment, so has to look after her. Are there any others? No. Okay. Next is the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of April. They are there as a record of that meeting. And I propose to sign these if everyone's happy at the end of the meeting. Are you happy that these are a true record? Please show. Proposed by Councillor Riddle, seconded by Councillor Boychek. Are you all in favour? Yep, that's fine. That's unanimous. Does anyone have any interest to declare of any items on this agenda this morning? If not, then I would like to begin with something absolutely fantastic, which is our new corporate plan, which is just hot off the press. We have sent a copy, a hard copy, to all the group leaders so that they are aware of this and have had a chance perhaps to read it over the weekend. It is online and being shared widely. It's taken a significant amount of effort to get us to where we are today with this. It's a document that's based on our three priorities, which is to provide value for money to our council taxpayers, to support and help those people who we need to help the most by tackling inequalities, and thirdly, by positively and ambitiously encouraging business and jobs and opportunities. Those are our three key priorities, and everything that we do will be driven by those three priorities. And I have to say I'm really grateful to all members of the council for getting full square behind these, and all of us working together as a team across parties to get these to make some real significant progress. We've consulted very widely on this corporate plan. We've had a number of meetings across the county, which I've led myself, at least two of those or three of those, and involved members and residents in getting to where we are today. So it is full of real ambition, it's fair to say, and absolute commitment to doing what we can to work hard for people, all of the people in the county, across the county. And by focusing on those three priorities and ensuring we're all working on the same programme, we will see real and true progress. Any thoughts on this? Yes, Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, awful lot of work has gone into this. This is this council's vision for the next 3 to 4 years. And like the Leader says, it's come on the back of widespread consultation and a number of policy conferences. And you've mentioned what the three corporate priorities are, but I'll reinforce them again. They're achieving value for money, tackling inequalities, and driving economic growth. The document covers all the topics that affect or perceived as problems for our residents. The document covers such things as net zero, sustainability, climate change, empowering communities, life expectancy, and skills to meet our dynamic new high-tech businesses that have been brought about from some massive inward investment. So this is the way forward for the next 3 or 4 years, and I thoroughly recommend it to the council.
Lovely, thank you very much for that. We do have some recommendations. They are to recommend to full council at its next meeting this corporate plan for adoption on the 17th of May. And to note the proposal for full council to consider an annual corporate plan achievements report. And that's really important because we need to make sure that we're not just saying things, we're actually doing them, and that it is completely transparent and open to challenge where we're not achieving the targets that we were aiming to achieve. But I'm sure we will achieve those targets. And then finally, to consider an annual corporate plan performance report at full council at the conclusion of Q4 of the performance cycle. Those are the three recommendations. Is there a proposer for those? Proposed by Councillor Poshide, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Are you all in favour? Yep, that's lovely. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. We now move on to the North East Bus Service Improvement Plan. I'll take this because it is a regional sum of money that's been allocated by government of £163 million, basically to encourage people to get onto buses and use them more. And the way to do that, of course, is to make sure that that funding lasts for long enough to make sure that any new programme to encourage bus travel is of some length to make people feel that actually this is something that's worth changing to do and change my habits of transport, because I know this bus will take me there and back to work or to school or wherever, and it will be on service for at least a period of time of a year, probably more than that. So that's what this is all about, encouraging people to get onto buses. It's about encouraging rural bus transport, which is very important for us as a county. And of course, finding a fare that is a very attractive fare. And you can see in the report just how fair and how attractive those proposed bus fares are. There are also some proposals around creating some new bus lanes, two in Cramlington, one in Blythe. They're proposals and they need to be discussed and thought about, but they are before us there to help ease the flow of buses through those particular towns. So all in all, it's a significant amount of funding coming from government, for which I'm very grateful, and we will see a difference. What we have to do is work on these and encourage users to car users and so on to look at how an improved and enhanced bus service will make life much better for many people, especially, as I say, across the rural areas. Are there any questions or points anyone would like to make on this? Yes, Councillor Renner-Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I would just like to reiterate what you've said about how this could change people's lives in the rural area. You know, for a child in my division, if he or she wants to go to Newcastle, you know, that's going to be £5 or £6 return on the bus. Whereas under this scheme, it's £1 each way, which can really make a difference to people's lives, and it'll allow young people to access services that they can't necessarily get in their own communities. So it's going to have a huge impact on young people in rural and urban Northumberland. Good.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have some recommendations there. Is there a proposer for those recommendations? Proposed by Councillor Riddle, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Are you all in favour? Please show. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on to financial performance and some good news, I think, Councillor Wimmer.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, indeed. So this is a document which is quite long and detailed, and so I will probably stick to the sort of the higher level detail, having we've all seen this paper and gone through it previously. So this is looking towards the end of the last financial year, and it was a year that was very complex, I think it's fair to say, in terms of the various inflationary pressures that we experienced throughout that time. When we set our budget for that year, we ensured that we had £5.6 million worth of cover for inflation, because we felt that would probably cover us for the relevant time period. 5.2 million, sorry. In fact, we haven't had to use all of that funding to cover in-year pressures, such that we have a net underspend, therefore, in our budget from last time of £2.1 million. So you'll see us set out in the paper what we intend to do with that, because as you'll all know, we have to bring these papers to amend our budget accordingly where it changes. So we are intending to put £1 million into the Regeneration Development Reserve, which will help us in terms of our corporate plan aims, which you've just outlined, to make sure that we deliver jobs and investment into the county. We're adding £100,000 in terms of regeneration additional capacity reserve, and then to make sure that we don't get caught out in what is still potentially a difficult year in terms of exceptional inflation, we're adding £1 million into the exceptional inflation reserve, and that will help us to capture any issues in terms of inflation and delivery of the capital programme and core services. If I go back to the start recommendations as well, you will see some other requirements in terms of amending the budget. So we intend to create a reserve in terms of Homes for Ukraine. There's an underspend of the grant of £5 million, and it's proposed to transfer that into a reserve as delegated for use by the Executive Director for Place and Regeneration in consultation with the Finance Officer. We have £2.9 million that will be covering replacement of any defective street lanterns, and that is money that's come externally, and that will cover us for anything that we have to do, bearing in mind that that those street lanterns have already gone through a significant £20-odd million refurbishment previously, so that will just be capturing any defects and pressures that we encounter. We have £250,000 that we're adding to the Parks and Green Spaces budget, which is great that we have the freedom to do that, especially given how valued our parks and green spaces were during COVID and in the time since. So obviously this is very welcome. And then we have the creation of reserve of 1.127 million for highways commuter maintenance fund as well, and that's come in from developers as part of various agreements and for adoptions of roads by the council. And so on from various schemes up and down the county. So those are the major headlines. Happy to answer any questions or hear any comments. If I could add one thing,
yes.
of course, which is that we're incredibly grateful in terms of that budget year to the finance team, but to every directorate that made sure that we got costs under control and didn't have to eat into any other reserves and indeed delivered that underspend. It was a fantastic achievement. And one minor comment, actually, in terms of a typo, there is a typo in there on the third bullet. I think it is on page 3 somewhere like that. Yes, I believe it is. Add what says 1.000, but there should be a million after that. It is, of course, a million added to the Regen Development Reserve, and that is captured elsewhere in the paper. It's just a typo on that page. Thank you.
Super, yes. So I too would like to add my thanks to the finance team and also, as you say, to all parts of the council who have had to deal with inflation at an extraordinary rate of over 10% and yet be able to manage to make some savings and create an addition to our reserve fund for tackling inflation this year. It is true to say that our council tax increase this year was less than 2%, which when added to the 2% adult social care meant that we were looking for a council tax increase of around 4%, slightly less than that for many people, at a time when we were dealing with inflation and all of the effects that inflation had on us. On a whole range of issues, but we managed to keep our council tax at that rate, is a demonstration that we are very serious about providing value for money. That's our first priority. and it will continue to be absolutely our first priority. Whatever we do in terms of services, we'll make sure we do it the best way we can, in the most cost-effective way, and we will continue to make sure that we cut our coat according to our cloth, I think we say. I think that's the expression. I don't know why I use these expressions. I can never really remember what they are, but you know what I mean. So it's very important, though, that we are very, very, very cautious in our finance dealings, and we will continue to do that, and that's why I'm so grateful to our staff for that. I'd actually just like to pick up on one point which you mentioned, Richard, which was around the Parks Enhancement Programme. You are right. The parks and green spaces were hugely useful during COVID, but they are still hugely useful now because people really appreciate being able to take a walk, to be able to enjoy nature, some quiet, reflective time, places for the kids to play. And the parks and green spaces are incredibly important to this council. We know, of course, that some councils have real trouble in maintaining their parks, and some have outsourced the maintenance of them to external companies. We are very clear that these are really important to us, and that's why we are finding this extra money, which on top of the £370,000 we found for our Queen Elizabeth II memorial paths and projects, make the total with this amount of money almost £750,000 we want to spend on our parks and open spaces this coming year. And I'm really proud that we can do that because it's so important. So, are there any other members that would like to make comments on the paper here? John Riddle. Okay, that's fine. So we are. We notice that there are a number of new initiatives in here, and we will ensure that we stick to the programme that is in front of us here to make sure that we continue to make those savings that we need to. There is the point about the Homes for Ukraine funding, and we will come to that in a paper in a moment. So, is there a proposal, please?
Happy to propose.
Proposed and seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favour? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. This takes us on to our next paper, which is the summary of new capital proposals. These have been through our officer system, and they come to us for our approval, and they are here before us this morning today. The first one is around the fly tipping intervention grant award. Councillor Riddle, tell us about this.
And I just want to give you a little bit of background first on where we are in Northumberland. In 2021, we actually bucked the national trend with a slight reduction in fly tipping. In 21-22, we were down 6.6%. And although these figures aren't nationally available yet, our present figures are showing us that we're over 14% down this year. That said, we do have a couple of real hotspots in the county that are sort of perennial ones that, we are tackling, but we are making some progress. But this extra money from the Deaf Intervention Fly Tipping Fund for CCTV will actually have a great effect. The areas of Ashington and Blythe seem to be our major hotspots, and we are determined that we make progress on this. And I think this funding is very welcome, and I recommend we accept this to Cabinet.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. That's a very good summary. Certainly, I think we are building some compounds in one of those areas to help people dispose of their waste in an easier way. But at the end of the day, there are still people who think it's okay to fly tip, and all we can say is it's not okay. It brings down the rest of the county, and we're not going to have that. And this covert surveillance will be watching those people and will help bring to an end those particular hotspots in those towns you mentioned. So I'm sure everybody will agree with me that we're happy with this one. Yes? Okay. So the next one is around the Northumberland play zones. Again, more good news. This is about more funding for MUGAs, multi-use games. Yes. And just generally more availability and more options for people to be able to play and play games. So this is a significant amount of money, and we are going to find a number of sites, some of them are identified in the report, for delivery of this money, and the introduction of new play areas, which is so important. As well as parks and green spaces, play areas are very important as well. So I'm really pleased that we've got this money. Are you all happy? We spend £300,000 on this. Good. The next one is around the IT capital schemes. This is too complicated for me to understand, so I'm going to ask Richard to explain.
Thank you, Leader. I always get the interesting ones. So this is effectively, as it's titled, the desktop refresh, but effectively what it's doing is moving around existing IT budgets, but to greater effect, given changes that we've encountered in terms of shortage of microchips, which is a worldwide problem, issues around COVID and inflation, the bringing in-house of some of the staff that were part of the partnership with the NHS locally and various other factors. I can get into the detail if people would really like, but effectively there is no additional cost. It's simply reprofiling of one budget into another, to make sure that we deliver in the most effective way, as you would expect, as we move forward with our best programme and with our best ways of working, and to make sure that we ensure value for money. Of course, one of the priorities of the Council.
Excellent. Okay, any questions? All happy? Okay, that's fine. And then we move to the final one, which is around the Local Authority Housing Fund Grant Award, where we've been offered this money for a specific purpose. Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, indeed, we've been offered this 1.1 million plus from the Local Authority Housing Fund into our capital programme for the acquisition of 12 homes. And this is actually very timely because some of these 6-month sponsorship deals for the Ukrainians are coming to an end, and this enables us to acquire these houses for the Ukrainians and the Afghans, 12 houses in total, a mixture 2 and 3 bedroom properties and some 4-bedroom properties. Now, this is an excellent boost to our affordable housing programme, and what I should really say is that not all local authorities took part in taking the Afghans, Syrians and the Ukrainians in. We did. We really played our part. And the Afghans and the Ukrainians in Northumberland, they've been a very successful integration into our communities. So I would say a big thank you to all the departments at our council here that made it work. So we've been asked to take this on board. But what I could say is that when I say it's timely intervention, it's really good because, we are moving ahead with our usual affordable housing scheme. And I would just take this opportunity, because I would like to say this as often as possible, that in the last 6 years, we've actually brought forward 1,657 affordable dwellings. That's what's being delivered in Northumberland. And those figures are likely to be maintained during the next 5 years, at least, and 61% of those new affordable homes were for rent, and that's exactly the sort of thing we need. So we have delivered an awful lot of affordable homes. Yes, we have problems in Northumberland because the rural areas it's harder to deliver, but it's something we're really looking at. So what I can say is this 1.1 million, which we've got to match to the tune of just over £1 million, timely boost to us, and I'll thoroughly recommend we take it.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it, to note how many affordable houses have actually been delivered. And that's all good. This is funding that will not affect that programme. This is funding, as you say, that will provide more homes for Ukrainians. And I think given the awful last year, 18 months that they've had to endure. It's absolutely the very least that we can do is to find a contribution along with this government funding to create some new homes, and I'm absolutely 100% behind this. Are you all okay with this? All right, so that is all, they are all agreed, and thank you very much indeed for that. I would just actually make a note. I've just found out that work has just begun. We were talking about parks and open spaces and green spaces. Work has just begun this morning on Eastwood Park in Prudhoe. So well done to the local member there, and well done to the council for beginning that project. That's really good news. Okay, so now we move on to report number 8, which is the outcomes of the consultation on proposals. And we underline the word proposals because this is not a fait accompli. This is roughly where we are now, with some time still to go in the process, for the Berwick Partnership. Before I bring in Councillor Renner Thompson, I want to thank him for all the meetings he's attended and all the work he's done and all the phone calls he's taken and all the emails he's dealt with around this particular subject, and also to our staff who've been deeply involved in this as well. So thank you to all of them. Yes, Guy, tell us where we are with this.
Thank you, Leader. The team will be very grateful for that. So this is the next stage of our exciting investment in Berwick. This report follows years of consultation going right back to 2018, which is when this administration first said we wanted to rebuild Berwick Academy. That's followed on from our county-wide programme of rebuilding or refurbishing new schools in Haydenbridge, Ponteland, Hexham. We're going through the process now with Amble and Seaton Delaval. There's £40 million in the budget for this partnership of schools. I should point out, because I have had some correspondence about this, how that money is spent and split up within the schools has not been decided yet. There is nothing set in stone about that money. Those decisions can't be made until we get through the next 4-week round of consultation if we agree this report today. So people shouldn't read too much into that table in the report, but headline figures, we're looking at a new build Berwick Academy, improvements to the first schools that require it for transitioning into primary schools, a new community hub in Wooler out of the first and middle school there, increasing our SEND provision, which we know is a huge priority for us. We want to see less children having to travel to southeast Northumberland from dark rural Northumberland to access education. And we'll have a dedicated post-16, post-18 skills learning centre in this new build that we want to put on the current site of Berwick Academy. The changes to the school structure proposed are supported by the vast majority of schools and our educational partners in the Catholic and Church of England schools, and by the North Northumberland Autistic Society. Has also now been supported by all of the elected councillors in the Berwick Partnership and our elected MP, who's very pleased with the amount of investment that we're wanting to put in, and we've gone back to her asking if the government could chivvy in some as well. However, we do understand that there will be staff in the Berwick Partnership, especially in those 2 schools that are proposed for closure, that will be concerned by this. I think we want to take this point to reiterate that first schools turning into primary schools and the academy turning into a secondary school will obviously increase the job opportunities in those schools. We will have a staffing protocol in place which will put a ring fence around the Berwick Partnership, and we hope to redistribute all available staff without any compulsory job losses. The report has been through facts on the 9th of May, which you've got. The councillors went into it in some detail. The main thing would be they were concerned about the Berwick Academy and its current level of provision, but we were reassured by our team that the council's own school improvement team are now in Berwick Academy. The latest visits by Ofsted are very encouraging. Some of the members of that committee are in regular contact and have visited the academy, and they report a much improved atmosphere around the place under the current leadership, which we have faith in and we're working with really hard. So if you approve this today, like the leader said, this is not the end of the road. If you turn to page 2, I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see all the separate consultations that have to go on for the individual changes for each school. For those schools that aren't council schools, for those schools that are church schools, they go through a slightly different process. And for the academies in the partnership, they go through another process yet again. But today we are approving the next stage of consultation that our consultees and members of the public can take part in.
That's great. Thank you very much. Really good report. Are there any questions? A lot of recommendations there. Clearly a lot of schools and a lot of teachers and a lot of students, a lot of residents are affected by this. I've been greatly heartened, however, by the fact that we have spent a significant amount of time on the consultation process, trying to speak to absolutely everyone and getting everyone's views. We will never please everyone. We will never please everyone. But what this is about is to bring about in Berwick and the surrounding area an improvement in the school's provisions that will allow every young person the opportunity to get a first-class education, and I think this will achieve that. It's not just, of course, about education per se, it's also about skills training, and I believe that we are looking also at a significant investment in skills training for the people in and around Berwick as well. It will give those people in the north of the county a really brilliant start in life and a much clearer way forward in their career by this investment of 40 million plus, and I'm really grateful that we're doing this. And I'm pleased too for the support that we've had from the local members and from the vast majority of the people we've spoken to. It's not the end of the road, as you say. We are still in the stage of process where we need to be, but we need to recognise these points this morning and take these recommendations forward, which I will do in a moment after I've heard from Councillor Horncastle.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I actually watched the scrutiny committee on the TV the other day, and I sometimes like to see good arguments on the TV, especially when it's the council meetings. That's what I was expecting. But I was absolutely amazed that the acceptance of this by not just the all political parties there, but by the outside representatives as well, how everybody was totally in tune with this, and I was totally amazed.
Good. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So, if there are no further questions or comments, we have those recommendations, which you'll be relieved to hear I'm not going to read out because they're awfully long, many of them, but they're there for you all. Is there a proposer? There is. Councillor Renner-Thompson, seconded by Councillor Pojai. Are you all in favour? That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So now we move on to our next report, which is a public interest report, which has come to us from the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, which is for us to note. The recommendations are there. We have acted upon those recommendations and done those actions which we were asked to do. So therefore I would just ask, is there someone who'd like to put those recommendations forward, proposed by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Riddle? Are you all in favour? Yeah, that's lovely. So we'll carry out all those recommendations there. Now, item number 10 is around the Energising Blythe programme. This is around the Culture Hub and Marketplace, the outlined business case. Councillor Pojai, tell us about this.
Thank you, Leader. As you mentioned, the report presents the outline business case and the revised project budget for the Culture Hub and Marketplace project in Blythe Town Centre. It is a flagship project showing this Conservative administration commitment to driving positive change in the Blyth and wider area. This 14.7 million transformative project is part of the £70 million Energising Blyth programme, and it exemplifies the Council's dedication to investing in Blyth's future, fostering economic growth and enhancing the lives of its residents. Throughout the establishment of the new culture hub and revitalisation of the marketplace, we are proactively addressing the challenges faced by the Blyth Town Centre and paving the way for a brighter future. The Culture Hub will feature the three-screen cinema, creative play area, multi-purpose space, cafe, and hopefully will attract new visitors and encourage investment in the town centre, while the revitalised marketplace with public realm improvements and new outdoor performance space will become a central attraction for the town. It's also worth to highlight that the project also includes the refurbishment of the public toilets in the marketplace, which are probably one of the most utilised in the county and in a very poor condition at the moment. Also, it's worth to highlight that this project demonstrates a positive benefit-cost ratio of about 2.7, which is fairly high, and reflects the responsible use of public funds to deliver benefits to the community. The report also seeks our approval to go into the to appoint the main operator for that culture hub, which will be Jam Jar Cinema Community Interest Company, which I believe runs the similar cinema in Whitley Bay. That partnership will generate some rental income for the council, so again, some value for money, for taxpayers' money. And I would like to take a moment to commend the outstanding efforts of our regeneration team, who have been worked tirelessly to develop this project and all other projects in the Energising Blyth programme. And they've been instrumental in bringing this vision of a vibrant and thriving town to life. In conclusion, the Culture Hub and Marketplace is a prime example of Council and this administration's success in driving regeneration and championing the regeneration of Blyth Town Centre. And recommendations are in front of you, and your approval will enable us to continue delivering our promise to transform the community, create new opportunities for residents, and showcase the positive impact we make for Blyth and South East Northumberland. And thank you for, hopefully, your approval.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Really exciting new further investment for Blyth. And it's really great to see this, and thank you for explaining it. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to say that I'm genuinely delighted to hear about these improvements for Blyth. It's a great town with a super community, and it's so well deserved.
Excellent, good. I think we're all really happy about this, and very much looking forward to seeing this particular project begin as well, in addition to everything that's happening in Blyth. So is there a proposer for this? Is Councillor Beauchesne, seconded by Councillor Patterson. You all in favour? Yep, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on to paper 11, which is around the future of the Berwick Museum and Art Collections. Hugely important paper, this. And what I do is just slightly unusually, I'm going to read the recommendation first, because the recommendation says, the Cabinet is recommended to approve the retention of the Berwick Museum and Art Collections as part of the Living Barracks initiative, subject to further discussions with relevant partners on the issues set out in Para 47. And Para 47 says, it's recommended that we advise English Heritage of their intent to seek the retention of the Berwick collections within the Barracks complex as part of the Living Barracks initiative. This will be subject to further discussions over the coming months to A, achieve the appropriate balance across the collections as to the material on permanent display, whilst recognising the scope for temporary exhibitions both on site and in other locations, to provide increased storage space for the collections that can also afford the appropriate protection for sensitive artefacts. We are fully aware of the need to treat the fine art that we're talking about here with the utmost care, and we will take advice from those people who know most about this, working with our officers to achieve that. And then finally, further develop the operating model to ensure that the collections and the wider hub facility are managed appropriately, including the retention of museum accreditation. So this paper sets out our vision for how we can invest again in Berwick, this way within the culture of the town, and for the and to create something that really can be a fantastic development. But we're also aware that we are talking about some very sensitive material, very important culturally, very important in a range of ways, that we will need to, and we will continue to talk to all those partners that are involved in this project to make sure that we will hopefully find a way forward that will suit everyone, and that will certainly ensure that the safety and care of the fine art involved is paramount. So with that, I would also like to thank the partnership that we have with Museums Northumberland, which is an important partnership, and one I hope will work together to get this project up and running and underway. So that's what the recommendation is, that we agree this first step, but that we continue to talk and, equally importantly, to listen. Are there any questions or comments on this report? Yes, Guy Renner-Thompson.
Thank you, Leader. As I mentioned before, I live near Berwick, and what is happening at the barracks has the opportunity to be truly transformational for the area. It's going to be a culture hub, not just for Berwick, but for Northumberland and into Berwickshire and across the borders. This is a really fantastic opportunity that we need to grasp with both hands. And your point on paragraph 47, that we're going to look at temporary exhibitions as well outside of the main places now. I think that's a really excellent idea, to get the collection out and about there so people can actually see it and know that it exists. But you're right, we do have to take the utmost care with the pieces that are in there. So as a local person, really happy with this report.
Thank you very much. We do have Janice Rose, who's the officer who's been dealing most closely with this. I'm not planning to bring you in unless you have anything specific you want to add. Okay. Okay, so any other questions, comments, thoughts on this? No? So before we take the recommendation, I must stress the point that I've made and the point that Guy Renner-Thompson has made, that we will continue to talk about the detail here. We will continue to talk about what options there may be over the next coming weeks and months. But the paramount importance is to ensure the safety and good keeping of the fine art involved, to keep our partners working together in a way that we can move forward with this really important project, and to ultimately achieve our aim, which is to improve the culture offer in Berwick and for the whole area around the north of the county and into the Scottish borders, as Guy has said, and that has got to be an important objective. We will never, like the schools, we will never please everyone, but what we must do is continue to try and keep everybody together, where necessary find compromise, and that is something this administration will wish to do on this particular project. So the recommendation is there. I formally propose that recommendation. Is there a seconder, please? Seconded by Councillor Riddle. Are you all in favour, please? Yep, you are. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So now we move on to our final report, which is number 12, which is the Market Sustainability and Improvement Fund 2023-24, a complex area. I'm going to ask our Cabinet Member, Wendy Patterson, to give us a brief overview, and then I'll bring in the officer, Neil Bradley, to tell us a little bit more about the detail.
Thank you, Leader. The Market Sustainability and Improvement Plan, or Fund, is to support local authorities to make tangible improvements to adult social care services in their areas. In particular, to build capacity and to improve market sustainability. 3.6 million for years 23-24 has been allocated to Northumberland County Council, and we must submit a plan to the Department of Health and Social Care by May the 24th on how we are going to spend this money. One of our biggest concerns is home care, and we propose to use a substantial amount of this money to support this part of the sector. A significant portion will also be used to support the care home market with inflationary pressures, and a smaller reserve will be ring-fenced for contingencies. Our residents are the heart of everything we do, and with this in mind, I'm going to invite the Director of Adult Social Care, Mr Neil Bradley, just to say a few more words about the Market Sustainability Plan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Patterson. I'm grateful for just a couple of minutes. I know this is unusual in protocol, but I did just want to make the Cabinet aware of some additional information that came to light over the past week and a half since we actually issued the papers for this meeting, that we feel it's appropriate for Cabinet to have sight or to hear before they actually make their decision. The Care North East Northumberland is the trade association that represents around about 24 of the 71 care homes that operate in Northumberland, and it has for quite a while expressed quite strong disagreement with the council about its approach to setting care home fees. Since the papers were published for this meeting, CNEN have raised a judicial review against the council on the basis of its fee setting. That judicial review was primarily around how the council had approached the extraordinary inflation that was applicable to the sector, and what we'd done in relation to that in terms of setting fees for this year. I would point out that the report in front of you at the minute, in essence, supersedes that judicial review to some degree, because we make a decision here, if you go ahead with the recommendations in the Cabinet report, on paying an additional inflator to the care home to care homes in Northumberland of 1.5% to recognise that additional inflation. That may make that judicial review go away at this point in time, and we need to see what CNEN's decision is off the back of that. But additionally, once they got sight of the report, they have raised some further objections in relation to the report, and that's primarily what I want to make Cabinet aware of here, so that you are aware of CNEN's view before you make this decision. The first objection is that they believe that we allocate a disproportionately large amount of the funding to the home care market rather than the care home market, and they feel that a larger proportion of that funding should go to the care home market. I think that issue is explained fully in the report. I don't propose to say anything more about that in here, and the narrative, I think, gives the logic and reasons that officers have put forward as to why we feel that's appropriate to do that for the home care market at this point in time. The second objection from CNEN is that they should have been consulted at an earlier stage about the recommendations. I do have some sympathy with that objection from CNEN. However, the timescale in essence has been placed upon us by DHSC from when they released the guidance for the use of this grant and when they require a submission, which is towards the end of May, of how we're actually planning to use the grant. So in essence, we're caught a little bit within a government office trap there around when we have to get this decision made and the limited time that we've had for consultation. What I would say is that CNEN have been told for a number of months now, the officer's view is that the key pressure in Northumberland is around the home care market to a greater degree than the care home market. They haven't really raised any significant points on that other than general statements that they think care homes are also under pressure. There hasn't been any specific issues raised directly to officers around that. The third objection, and probably the main one from CNEN, is that they have raised some concerns that by paying a higher hourly rate for home care workers, which is what this paper proposes, but not care home workers, may put more pressure on their sector. That is a risk. I mean, we can't deny that's a risk as officers, and I want to recognise that, and for Cabinet to be aware that we recognise that. We are aware, though, that another local authority 2 years ago did raise wage levels for home care workers, whilst not raising, a neighbouring local authority raised wage levels for home care workers whilst not doing that for care homes. And they have not, we've spoken to them and they have not reported any substantial issues off the back of that. Additionally, some care homes have turned down the offer that the council already has in place at the minute to uprate fees to enable them to pay the real living wage here in Northumberland. And we're not aware of any significant issues being reported from those homes that have chosen to have a differential in fee here in Northumberland at this point in time. We do recognise it as a risk, though. We will keep an eye on the issue, and we may well need to come back to Cabinet if it started to materialise as an issue going forward. Just very briefly, the last thing I would say in relation to this and around the 1.5% figure that's been put forward here, CNEN, there's been a fundamental difference of opinion between the Council and CNEN for a number of years about mathematical calculations of fee increases. CNEN do believe strongly that there should be a mathematical calculation of the increase in fees, and we believe they feel that way about this increase as well. Officers strongly are of the view that that's too simplistic an approach to setting fees. It's far more complex than that, and you require a look at the market to understand what's actually going on in that area, as well as some degree of look at what's happening within the homes themselves. CNEN did take us to court previously on this in 2012 on this issue, and the Court of Appeal backed Northumberland County Council's decision at that point in time, and our approach to it, and that's the approach we're applying here again. So this 1.5% is based on a rough view of the maths behind the cost increase that they're having to pick up, but it's also based on looking at the market at the minute, and we're not seeing significant evidence of care homes being in serious financial difficulties at this point in time. Our key problem is that we can't source home care at the minute, but we can source care home placements at this point in time, and overall that's the material that I would like Cabinet to be cognizant of as they're making this decision. Our officer's best judgment at the minute is that the recommendations in front of you strike the right balance for the use of this fund, but we will, as I say, if information comes to light as we go forward that this does put the care home market under pressure itself, we will clearly come back to Cabinet and raise those issues at that point in time. I apologise that was slightly lengthy, but I'm grateful for the couple of minutes audience for that. Thank you.
No, that's absolutely fine. A very good summary. Thank you very much, Neil. Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Neil, for that summary. I think this is very welcome. Representing the area of Bellingham, it's one of the problem spots for home care, for recruiting people and retaining them. And I think it's also one of the most expensive places for us to have to deliver home care as well. So, I very much support the ethos of keeping people in their own home if possible. And, I think that what you've described, Neil, is very much the right approach.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? This is a complex area. I think it's absolutely right to thank all of those who work in care homes and who work in providing care at home. For our residents. It's also very important to make sure that we don't forget that we've already made some substantial changes in the amount of money we allocate to those workers, and because we respect and are grateful for everything they do. At the end of the day, it is our job to balance the needs of our residents in the best possible way, but also be mindful of the fact that we need to ensure that every penny we spend is spent wisely. Thus, the value for money aspect comes into this as well. I want to thank you, Neil, for everything that you do. I have complete confidence in the way you are leading this, and I hope very much that we can come to a resolution at the end of this. And in the meantime, I, for one, am very happy with these recommendations. Anything else from anyone else? Okay, so Wendy proposed the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Horncastle. Are you all in favour? That is unanimous, so thank you very much indeed for that. And that takes us to the end of this meeting today. There are no matters of urgency that we need to discuss, so can I thank all of you for attending, and those of you that have joined us